Get the hell away from here, so I can take my photos. You filthy peasant. The piercing shriek of Vioan, a millionaire YouTuber infamous for her ridiculously lavish lifestyle, shattered the dignified, ultra-luxurious atmosphere inside the official Rolls-Royce showroom in the heart of Hanoi. Her sharp, ridiculously expensive, high-heeled shoe ruthlessly stepped on the rough, heavily calloused hand of a middle-aged man dressed in dirty construction safety gear. The man was pinned to the polished marble floor, Sagrada Familia, which reflected the scene like a mirror. I.V. Ouyang's two towering, burly, personal bodyguards. All around them, the camera lenses of her media team continuously flashed, recording every single second of this working-class man's public humiliation, as if it were a trophy to be used for cheap clickbait. Your sweaty, grease-covered body, reeking of hot asphalt. Standing near my Rolls-Royce Phantom instantly depreciates its value. V. Oang sneered, wiping her luxury heels with a designer tissue. Unmasked disgust written all over her heavily powdered face. But there was a devastating truth that Vioang, her wealthy trust fund boyfriend, and every single showroom employee standing by with folded arms did not suspect. Here is this agonizing moment. Let us roll back the clock exactly 6 hours. See how this massive storm of karma was sparked from the simplest of things. Earlier that morning, at the construction site of the high-end commercial complex right across the street from the showroom, Mr. Tram Van Dijk, 55 years old, quietly observed the progress of the building. He wore nothing but a faded blue safety uniform, a worn-out hard hat, boots, caked in construction dust. To anyone passing by, he looked like an aging bricklayer, or at best, a low-level site supervisor, struggling to make a living under the scorching Hanoi sun. Not a single soul, including the engineers reporting to him, knew that this dusty, ordinary-looking man was actually the chairman of Daifat Group, one of the largest multi-industry private conglomerates in Vietnam, the sole exclusive distributor of Rolls-Royce vehicles in Southeast Asia. Mr. Dai came from poverty, building his empire from absolute scratch with his own bare hands on rough construction sites. Because of this, even though he stood at the absolute pinnacle of wealth and power, he kept his habit of personally inspecting projects unannounced, without alerting management. He wanted to see the raw truth, to observe how his employees handled their jobs, and most importantly, how they treated people from the working class, because he always believed the true integrity of a business is not measured by its revenue, but by how it treats the most vulnerable in society. At that exact moment, across the road, in front of the gleaming glass doors of the Rolls-Royce showroom, Nella Julia, a red convertible sports car roared loudly and pulled up to the curb. The Vai-Ong stepped up, dressed in a magnificent designer gown, wearing high-end sunglasses, an exotic Hermes crocodile handbag worth a fortune, dangling from her arm. Walking beside her was Ming Huang, son of a retired high-ranking financial official, primary financier for Yuan's superficial clout-chasing videos on social media. Today, Yuan came to the showroom with one goal: to film a video pretending to buy a multi-million-dollar Rolls-Royce. Of course, this was nothing but a carefully orchestrated scam. The target, the vehicle she targeted, actually belonged to another wealthy client who had already paid for it. Voang used bribe money to cut a deal with the corrupt showroom manager, using the car as a prop to lure unsuspecting investors into a multi-level cryptocurrency scheme she ran with her boyfriend. I need this video to look incredibly wealthy today, to make those broke followers online lose their minds, Li Huang whispered to Ming Huang as they walked into the grand lobby. Don't worry, baby. I already told Huang, the manager, to clear out the showroom. This entire place belongs to you. Ming Huang smirked, wrapping his arm tightly around Vioan's waist with absolute arrogance. They entered the showroom like they owned the world, ready to trample on anyone who stood in their way just to gain a few virtual likes on a phone screen. The air-conditioned breeze inside the Rolls-Royce showroom carried the faint, expensive scent of Italian leather and fresh lilies. Behind the polished glass counters, several junior sales consultants whispered in hushed, eager tones, their eyes glued to the entrance. They adjusted their tailored blazers, eagerly waiting to throw their practiced, sycophantic smiles at the wealthy couple who had just arrived. To these employees, a customer's worth was measured solely by the brand of watch on their wrist, or the designer logo stamped across their handbag. If you wore a Rolex, you were a god. If you wore a local brand, you were invisible. And if you looked like you belonged to the working class, you were treated like dirt that needed to be swept away immediately. The center of the showroom floor, under la sagrado mameite, warm spotlight of the main display area, a corrupt showroom manager, Wang, was busy bowing his head, leaning like a servant, before Vioang and Ming Huang. Huang's eyes gleamed with greed as he looked at the couple, knowing that the kickback from this exclusive video shoot would secure his commission for the next 6 months. Welcome, Miss Vioang, young Master Ming Huang, Huang said, his voice dripping with forced politeness. Everything is prepared exactly as you requested. Elegido. I have instructed the entire staff to stay in the back, ensuring no one interferes with your video shoot. The Phantom is freshly detailed, looking absolutely flawless for your camera. Vai Oang took off her oversized sunglasses, Filiolio, revealing a heavily made-up face filled with an expression of supreme arrogance. Fast, she glanced around the vast, empty showroom, nodding with cold satisfaction. Good, she said, her voice sharp and demanding. Make sure none of the lower-class customers walk in here while we are filming. My audience demands absolute perfection and luxury. I cannot have some random, ordinary person ruining the background of my multi-million-dollar aesthetic. Of course, Miss Hoang replied, bowing again. We have security guards posted at the front entrance. No average pedestrian will be allowed to step foot inside to ruin your pristine atmosphere. While the front entrance was heavily guarded, no one was paying attention to the heavy glass door at the far end of the showroom, which connected directly to the side alley and the massive construction site across the street. Suddenly, the heavy glass door creaked open. A man stepped inside. His heavy work boots leaving faint, dusty footprints on the immaculate marble floor. It was Mr. Trang Van Dai, the chairman of Dai Fat Group, still dressed in his dusty, faded blue safety uniform and carrying his worn-out hard hat. He didn't look like an elite tycoon. Le Sagrada Familia. He looked like a tired construction worker who had simply lost his way. Mr. Dai walked slowly, his calm eyes scanning the layout of the showroom, observing the paraphernalia, the positioning of the cars, the lighting, and the behavior of the staff. His face remained expressionless. His sharp mind was cataloging every detail. He wanted to see how his franchise behaved when they believed the owner was not watching. He took a step closer to a sleek, black Rolls-Royce Ghost. The sharp squeak of his work boots on the marble floor shattered the quiet. Immediately, Hoang's head snapped toward the sound. His face, which had been covered in a warm, servile smile a second ago, instantly contorted into an expression of pure rage and disgust. Marched towards Mr. Dai with aggressive, heavy steps, his eyes glaring at the dusty footprints on the floor. Hey, who the hell let you in here? Hoang yelled, his voice echoing loudly across the showroom, shattering the expensive, quiet ambience. Are you blind? Can't you see? This is a luxury showroom, not a public restroom for construction workers. Get out before I have security throw you into the street. Mr. Dai stopped in his tracks, looking calmly at his manager's furious face. He did not raise his voice. Instead, he kept his tone perfectly neutral, a quiet test of the man's character. I am just here to look around and check the facility, Mr. Dai said quietly, gesturing to the showroom floor. Is this place non-open to the public? Hoang let out a mocking, theatrical laugh, looking back at Va Hoang and Min Hoang as if to share a joke. Open to the public? Yes, but for people who can actually afford to buy a wheel, not for some dirty laborer whose entire life savings couldn't even pay for the tax on these cars. Look at your boots. You're dragging mud all over my clean floor. You useless old man. Get out of here right now. The harsh words of the manager, Hoang, bounced off the glass walls of the high-end showroom. They did not move the older man. Mr. Dai stood perfectly still, his expression calm, almost as if he were observing a specimen under a microscope. The heavy dust on his blue safety uniform seemed to annoy Hoang more than anything else. Did you hear me, old man? Hoang barked, taking a step closer, his expensive leather shoes stopping just inches from Mr. Guy's dirty boots. Get your filthy body out of here. Do you even know what kind of car this is? This is a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Even if you worked for 3 lifetimes on that dusty construction site across the street, you couldn't afford to pay for the paint on its door handle. Indim, hearing the commotion, Gio strutted over, her high heels clicking rhythmically on the marble. She looked at Mr. Lazo, I, with a face full of disgust, as if she had just spotted a cockroach in a 5-star restaurant. Ang, what is this garbage doing here? Ang asked, her voice dripping with artificial sophistication. I am trying to film an exclusive vlog for my channel, and you let this dirty, smelly laborer stand in my shot? He's ruining the entire aesthetic of my luxury brand image. Look at him. He looks like he hasn't washed his clothes in a month. Min Hoang, her wealthy boyfriend, stepped up behind her. An arrogant, mocking smirk plastered across his face. Maybe he's trying to steal something, Min Hoang suggested casually, glancing at the worn-out, cheap phone in Mr. I's calloused hand. Or maybe he wants to take a selfie to show off to his poor friends. Hey, old man. People like you don't belong in a place like this. Go back to your shovel. Mr. Dai remained silent. He was not angry. Rather, he was deeply disappointed. His showroom was one of his company's pride. Yet, the people representing it were treating a working-class citizen with absolute malice. So Marito, he decided to push the test a bit further. I was simply looking at the craftsmanship of the car, Mr. Dai said, his voice steady and low. I didn't touch anything. Is it a crime for an ordinary citizen to admire a beautiful vehicle? Vioan let out a sharp, mocking laugh. Admire. Peasant like you, admiring a Rolls-Royce is like a pig admiring a diamond. You are making this entire showroom smell like sweat and dirt. Look, your dusty sleeve almost touched the pristine white paint. She suddenly gasped dramatically, pointing at Atenea, imaginary speck of dust near the car's wheel. Oh my God, he scratched it. He dirty marked the car. Ang. Are you just going to stand there and let this happen? Hoang's face went pale with panic. Knew the car belonged to an extremely wealthy client who would not tolerate any imperfections. In a desperate bid to please Vioang and secure his commission, Hoang turned to his security guards. Grab him, Hoang ordered, pointing a finger at Mr. Guy. Force him to the ground. Don't let him touch anything else. Immediately, 2 large, burly security guards in dark suits grabbed Mr. Guy's arms, pushing him down toward the cold marble floor. Mr. Dai did not struggle physically. His eyes remained locked on Hoang and Vioang. Sindan Comitia, his quiet dignity in the face of such brutal humiliation was striking. Get down on your knees, old man, Vioang demanded, stepping closer. You made a mess near my car. Now, you're going to clean it. The cold, hard marble floor pressed against Mr. Guy's knees, but his spine remained straight, his dignity unbroken. even as the two heavy-handed security guards forced him down. Vi Oang stood over him like a victorious queen in a cheap theater play. Cruel, mocking smirk, twisting her red lips. "Look at this," she said, turning her head toward her camera crew. Shooting her microphone captured every single drop of her venomous words. La Sagrada Familia. This is what happens when you don't know your place in society. Dirty, sweat-soaked construction worker, thinking he has the right to stand next to a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Okay, you wanted to touch this car. Old man, fine, since you love it so much. You are going to use that dusty safety shirt of yours to wipe every single speck of dust off these tires. That's right. Oang, the showroom manager, chimed in, desperate to keep the atmosphere pleasing for his high-paying guests. Wipe it clean, you old fool. Do it carefully. If your dirty hands leave even a microscopic scratch on this paint, I will make sure you spend the rest of your pathetic life in prison trying to pay for the damage. Mr. Dai looked up, his calm, dark eyes locking onto Hoang's sweating face. He did not show fear, nor did he show anger. Instead, his voice was chillingly quiet. Ale, Ofe, filled with the weight of a man who held the power to destroy their entire worlds with a single breath. Is this how you treat people? Oang, Mr. Dai asked softly. Is this the training you received from Dai Fat Group? You bow to the rich. And to put your boots on the necks of those who build the very structures you stand in. Oang flinched for a split second. A strange, cold shiver running down his spine at the sound of this worker, knowing the name of the parent conglomerate. His arrogance quickly took over. How dare you call me by my name? Peasant, Hoang spat, stepping forward. Who do you think you are? Some undercover billionaire? Nay, you are nothing but a nameless laborer. Mr. Dai calmly reached into his dusty pocket, his fingerstrings wrapping around his primary mobile phone, a simple, rugged device he used on construction sites. He pulled it out, intending to call the regional director of the showroom. But before his thumb could touch the screen, Min Hoang, the wealthy boyfriend, stepped forward and kicked the phone straight out of Mr. Dai's hand. The cheap phone skidded across the polished marble floor, smashing against the heavy base of a display stand. No phone calls. Old man, Ming Hoang sneered, crossing his arms. You don't get to call your poor friends to come rescue you. You are going to sit right there on the floor until we are done filming our video. Yi Oang laughed, clapping her hands in delight as her camera operator zoomed in on the broken phone. Perfect shot, she whispered loudly. This is going to get so many views. No arrogant worker gets put in his place. The internet is going to love this. She didn't care about the human being on the floor. She only cared about the digital metrics, a cloud of fake prestige, and the money she was going to swipe from her followers using this very video to promote her fraudulent crypto scheme. The air inside the showroom was about to shift. The countdown to their absolute destruction had just begun. At that exact moment, Inside the shattered smartphone, lying on the floor, the screen was completely black and dead. But Ming Hoang and Wei Wang had absolutely no idea that Mr. Dai always carried a second communication device. It was a highly secure, custom-built satellite phone, tucked deeply inside the breast pocket of his dusty blue safety uniform. Right then, the phone in the pocket of Hoang, the showroom manager, began to ring aggressively. Endo. Its loud, urgent tone shattered the obnoxious laughter of the YouTuber crew. Hoang looked down at his screen, his eyes widening in sheer terror as he saw the caller ID. Global Chief Executive Officer. Nah. He frantically swiped the screen, his voice trembling with forced, desperate respect. Yes, I am listening. Sir, is there an urgent directive for the Hanoi branch? The other end of the line. The CEO's voice came crashing down like a thunderbolt. Cold, sharp, and laced with absolute panic. What the hell are you doing at the showroom right now? The supreme chairman of our board of directors, La Familia, the man who owns 100% of the shares of this entire Rolls-Royce distribution network, CE, is currently at your branch for an unannounced inspection. A la Sagrada Familia. He is wearing a blue construction safety uniform from the site across the street. Have you received him with the utmost respect? Hearing these words, every drop of blood in Hoang's body instantly turned to ice. His phone nearly slipped from his sweat-slicked, shaking hands. Slowly, stiffly, he turned his head. His terrified gaze moving away from his phone screen and landing directly on the middle-aged man, pinned to the cold marble floor by the guards. A blue construction safety uniform, the work boots caked in mud, the worn-out hard hat lying discarded on the floor. Ido Familia, every single detail matched with devastating, terrifying precision. Seeing Hoang's face turn completely pale, Hoang frowned in annoyance and demanded loudly, what's wrong with you? Why do you look like you've just seen a ghost? Hurry up and tell your security to drag this old man outside. Zinu. Having him stay here is ruining the background of my video. Hoang could no longer hear her voice. His ears were ringing, filled with a deafening silence. He watched as the middle-aged man slowly, Ruchna calmly stood up. The sudden, powerful, and effortless motion, Mr. Dai brushed off the hands of the two burly security guards holding him down. His entire aura shifted in a single second, no longer looking like a dusty, ordinary laborer. He stood with the towering, absolute authority of a global tycoon. A man who had commanded international business empires for decades. Mr. Dai calmly reached into his breast pocket, slowly pulling out his sleek, black satellite phone. He tapped the screen once, his cold, piercing eyes locking onto Hoang's trembling, scaly face. There is no need to look any further. Hoang, Mr. Dai said, his voice deep, quiet, filled with absolute power, echoing clearly across the massive, silent showroom. The supreme chairman you are looking for, is the very Man, you just ordered your guards to trample under your feet. Iremo. Mr. Dice's quiet declaration echoed across the space. Soft, yet carrying the devastating weight of an atomic bomb, dropped straight onto the showroom. The manager, Hoang, stood completely frozen in his tracks, his entire body trembling violently like a dry leaf caught in a massive hurricane. The expensive phone slipped from his sweat-slicked fingers, clattering loudly against the polished marble floor. He didn't even bother to look down to pick it up. For a brief second, Yi Wang and Ming Hoang burst into a sudden laugh, a forced, awkward laugh. Thick with disbelief, but desperately, trying to mask the rising wave of absolute panic in their chests. This old man has completely lost his mind. Bioang yelled, pointing her long, manicured finger directly at Mr. E. Ai's face, her voice cracking slightly, betraying her sudden fear. You honestly think that by wearing a filthy construction uniform and making up these ridiculous, pathetic lies that we are actually going to believe you? Wang, why are you just standing there like an idiot? Call your guards and drag this lunatic out of here, right now. But Hoang did not move a single inch. His face had turned the color of cold ashes. Beads of icy sweat were pouring down his forehead, dripping onto his expensive collar. At that exact moment, the piercing wail of police sirens and the deep, aggressive roar of multiple luxury engines shattered the quiet outside. Three sleek, black Mercedes-Benz Maybachs, led by a towering Rolls-Royce Cullinan escort, silencios, pulled up in a flawless line directly in front of the showroom's grand entrance. The heavy car doors flew open, and more than a dozen middle-aged men dressed in immaculate, tailored black suits, their faces grave and filled with extreme urgency, rushed into the showroom. Leading the group was the regional chief executive officer of Rolls-Royce, Southeast Asia, a legendary corporate titan whom Hoang only got to see from a distance at high-level annual shareholder meetings. Zuma, Hoang tried to force his trembling legs to move forward to greet them. CEO, sir, what brings you here so unexpectedly? The CEO brushed past Hoang, as if he were nothing but a ghost, completely ignoring him. He and the entire board of executive directors swept past the manager, running directly toward the middle-aged man standing in the dusty, stained construction uniform. Before the disbelieving eyes of Vioang, Ying Hoang, the stunt camera crew, and every single showroom employee holding their breath. Era da familia. More than a dozen of the most powerful corporate executives in the country stopped and bowed deeply. A perfect 9-degree angle of absolute submission. They spoke in unison. La Sagrada Familia. Their voices filled with profound respect and a trace of sheer terror. We deeply apologize for our late arrival. Oh, welcome to the showroom, Chairman. The vast showroom fell into a suffocating, dead silence. Vioang stood paralyzed. The rare, multi-million-dollar exotic Hermes handbag slipping from her shoulder. Usome, Mia. Falling directly into a puddle of dirty construction water on the floor without her even noticing. Her eyes bulged, her lips twitched frantically. Her throat was so dry, she could not squeeze out a single word. Min Hoang, the arrogant trust fund heir who had just kicked Mr. I's phone, was now completely white, all color drained from his face. His knees knocked together violently. Lilia, a suffocating tightness clamping down on his chest as he realized that this filthy laborer, Zele, was the legendary billionaire who sat at the absolute top of the financial empire, holding his family's entire line of credit. Mr. Dai slowly removed his faded hard hat, handing it casually to the regional CEO standing beside him. He looked down at Hong, who had now collapsed onto his knees on the cold marble, frantically slapping his own face, crying, and begging for mercy in utter desperation. Chairman, please, I beg of you, I was blind. Please show mercy and give me a second chance. As Mr. Dai looked down at him, his eyes held none of the warmth of a victim, only the chilling, unyielding judgment of a sovereign delivering a final, absolute sentence. The silence, hanging over the grand Rolls-Royce showroom, was absolute. Yes, heavy enough to suffocate everyone standing in the room. In Hoang's breath came in shallow, ragged gasps, his gaze shifting from his ruined phone on the floor to the cold, uncompromising eyes of the chairman. Mr. Dai stood tall, simple, blue safety uniform, no longer carrying the look of a laborer, but rather the unyielding armor of a sovereign who ruled a vast economic empire. He raised his hand slightly, gesturing to the regional CEO, standing beside him with quiet, absolute command. CEO Nam, Mr. Dai called out, his voice smooth like velvet, but freezing like winter. Tell me, what are the strict protocols of Daifat Group regarding the behavior and ethics of our brand representatives? CEO Nam bowed his head lower. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead as he answered in a clear, loud voice for everyone to hear. Sir, under Article 4 of our corporate code, any employee who exhibits class-based discrimination, verbal or physical abuse toward any individual, regardless of their status, is subject to immediate termination without compensation. Clase, followed by a permanent and blacklist across all subsidiary companies. Recordarlo very well. Mr. Dai nodded slowly, his eyes shifting back to the trembling, kneeling figure of Hoang. Hoang, you heard the corporate protocol. Your contract with Dai Fat Group is terminated immediately. You will pack your belongings and leave this building within the next 5 minutes. Furthermore, our legal department will file a comprehensive lawsuit against you for gross negligence, aiding a public scam on corporate premises, and actively coordinating the physical assault of an individual. Hoang let out a pathetic, choking sob, his hands clawing at the floor as he begged. Chairman, please, I have a family to feed. If I am blacklisted, I will never work in this industry again. Please, spare me. Mr. Dai did not even look at him. He turned his sharp, easy gaze toward Vio Ang, who was still standing frozen. Her face, completely devoid of color, looking like a pristine porcelain doll that had cracked down the middle. You, Miss Vioang, Mr. Dai spoke, his voice carrying a dangerous edge. You are very proud of your online audience. You are very proud of the image of luxury you buy with other people's money. But you forgot one basic rule. The platforms you use to climb to the top can also be used to drop you into the abyss. CEO, you claim this Rolls-Royce Phantom belongs to you for your exclusive lifestyle. But according to our database, this vehicle was reserved by a high-profile client of ours, who happens to be the primary institutional investor in your cryptocurrency project. CEO Nam, contact the investor immediately. Inform them that Ms. V. Oang has violated our code of conduct and used their reserved vehicle to stage a physical assault and commit fraud. V. Oang's heart stopped. Lala. Her knees shook so violently that she had to grab the edge of a nearby display table to keep from collapsing. No, you can't do that, she whispered, her voice cracking as tears of pure panic welled in her eyes. If they pull out, my project will collapse. I will go bankrupt. Please, Mr. Chairman, it's just a joke for my video. A joke, I replied, a cold, humorless smile touching his lips. You found it very funny to order your guards to press me to the ground. Larro. You found it very funny to step on my hand with your designer heel. Let us see if your millions of followers find your bankruptcy just as entertaining. In Ming, O Huang could feel the cold sweat soaking through his designer shirt, his hands shaking uncontrollably as he stared at Mr. Icecam unyielding eyes. Sir, Chairman, In Huang stammered, his voice losing all of its previous bravado and arrogance. I didn't know. Please, my father has done business with Dai Fat Group before. Can we please settle quietly? Mr. Dai looked at Min Hoang, lucido, a look of profound disappointment on his face. Quietly, Mr. Dai asked, his voice low and cold. Did you think about settling things quietly? When you kicked my phone across the floor, did you think about decency? When you watched your girlfriend demand that an elderly construction worker kneel in the dirt? He paused, looking around the entire silent showroom, his eyes locking onto every single employee who had stood by and watched the abuse. None of you stepped in, Mr. Dai said, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. None of you said a single word of protest. Son, you all believed that because this woman was wearing luxury brands and holding a camera, Plaza Josagria, she had the right to treat another human being like an animal. But wealth without character is nothing but a glittering trash can. He turned his back on them, walking slowly toward the entrance of the showroom. CEO Nam, Mr. Dai commanded without looking back. Sure, the police are handed the complete, edited security footage of this entire incident. Lele Dios Dai. I want Ms. V.O.N. prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law for public humiliation and assault. And call our legal department to freeze all lines of credit associated with Min Hoang's family businesses immediately. No, please. Min Hoang, he screamed, falling to his knees beside Vai Oang. The security guards, who had once taken orders from Hoang, now stepped forward and firmly grabbed both Vai Oang and Min Hoang, Lala y Sagrada Familia, dragging them out of the luxury showroom and throwing them onto the rain-soaked sidewalk outside. Their camera crew, Sieve, terrified of being associated with a criminal lawsuit, fled into the rainy Hanoi night, leaving the two disgraced elites weeping on the concrete. Their pristine designer clothes soaked in dirty street water. Mr. Dai stepped out onto the balcony, watching the rain wash away the dirt from the streets. Then he looked down at his calloused hands, knowing that while wealth could buy a Rolls-Royce, it could never buy McLean in soul. Now, let me ask you a question that you must answer honestly in the comments below. Suppose if you were standing in that showroom today, dressed in your everyday clothes, and you saw an elderly worker being forced to his knees by a wealthy influencer, would you have stayed silent like the employees, fearing the power of their cameras and wealth? Or would you have stepped forward to defend a stranger, even if it meant losing your job? Tell me the truth in the comments, because the world is watching. If you believe that human dignity is worth more than any luxury brand, hit that subscribe button, share this video, join us in standing up for justice.